Hey Grd11s, what's up? How's it going? All right, so I had a look at your schedule for the rest of this. So we are going to just finish water and then we'll be done for the term. After we've done that, I'm then going to do some revision with you guys. Make sure everything I have taught you thus far is nice and solid in the head. Just before those odd, weird June exams are coming, please don't also worry about it. I will give you a nice breakdown for it. So just water availability and water quality, and then boom, we're finished. Okay, so this week we should finish with water availability, and then I'll push through next week. Maybe we'll do like some maybe more compact videos next week, just so that you guys get all the work completed, and then there's more than enough time for us to do some revision. All right, because I don't want you to be caught with your pants down. You guys must do extremely well, and you know that you can do it. All right, so let's look at poor farming practices and droughts and floods today. Nothing too crazy, and it's quite a quick little set of slides. Okay, so we're first going to start with the poor farming practices. So you understand that farming in itself is actually quite a bad thing to do in terms of the environment, because we spoke about it earlier about how they sort of plow all the natural vegetation over there. They disrupt the soils, and they they move all the insects and the animals from that area as well. So if you're going to do farming, you may as well do it properly, especially when it comes to water, because your plants need a lot of water because they're exposed to sunlight constantly, and you don't want to run the risk of ruining the entire land and degrading what is naturally there. So over 70% of all fresh water used by humans is for irrigation. When used correctly, irrigation increases the productivity of a land. And if you overwater, it's not just a problem with the biology of the plant, but also with the soil when we spoke about erosion. So if you increase the amount of water far too much, you're then going to cause a lot of damage to the environment. Irrigation is not always efficient, and 60% of the water used in irrigation is wasted due to poor farming practices. That is a lot. Like if you think about how often those people spray their plants with water, and now all of a sudden 60% of that is not being taken up. So we'll delve into towards the end of this presentation about how we can actually overcome that. So one of the first ways is to do contour plowing. Okay, the problem is people like to farm on hills and the side of mountains for the simple fact that it's space saving. Okay, the problem comes in though. However, you can imagine if you just threw water on the top, it would eventually roll all the way down and wouldn't hit any of the plants, and this could cause a lot of erosion. So farmers plow downhill. Okay, when it rains, furrows used for plowing become natural drains, and this causes erosion of the topsoil. So if you use this contouring, which means that you run lines across it, all of that topsoil is going to be moved down and evenly distributed, and also it's going to stop running off more so because there's a lot of flat pieces, so the water is actually held. You just need to ensure that when you create the actual contours, that they are wide enough so the water doesn't flow off too quickly. All right, but once eroded, the land can no longer support plant growth, and the soil can no longer retain water. And if you can't retain water and you've become too clay, nothing can grow in there. So then you need to rehabilitate the grounds, and that's for university. So let's look at the land aggregation in South Africa as magisterial districts. So the red is severely degraded and blue is not degraded at all. So you're noticing that there are very specific areas in the top left-hand corner. There is a lot of farming that is going on over there, but that's more so just because of the actual weather that the topsoil has degraded away. But you see along the coastline, that is where we do a lot of our agriculture in terms of forestry, and that forestry itself is what causes a lot of the damage to those parts of the land. Then just as you go up the coast, there's a lot of sugarcane farming there as well. So it's really it's pinpointing where there has been farming, the land has been degraded to a large extent because they're not doing it properly. So let's look at strategies to reduce water loss in agriculture. First one is water in the early or late parts of the day when it is cooler, because if it is cooler, then there won't be as much evaporation, which means the water might have a higher chance of getting soaked into the soil. Use sprinkler systems that water close to the ground. If they are closer to the ground, that means that any water that is produced is not going to have the opportunity to heat up in the air, and it's going to be directly into the plants. To a large extent, this some sort of Arab state where they've actually started farming in the deserts. And that is because they've run a fine little pipeline directly underneath the soil, and the roots grow towards the soil, which is something I'll teach you a little bit later. But they're actually able to just tap out what they need instead of just overspraying absolutely everything, which South Africans love to do. Plant crops when rainfall is at highest. So if the crop itself is going to grow through a rainy season, then it is recommended that you plant it during a very rainy season so that you don't have to water it as often. Remember, water is expensive. Plant crops that are suitable for the environment where the farm is located. Remember that you don't want to introduce a plant that is going to use up too much water or take water away from the plants that you actually have growing over there. Finally, use farming practices such as contour plowing, and plant vegetation acts as windbreaks, protecting fields and water from and wind erosion. Okay, so if you plant smaller plants that aren't going to damage the crop that is developing in that particular area, that means that you are then not going to lose all their topsoil, and also you'll probably hold on to a lot more water. So let's look at droughts and floods. It has been predicted that one of the effects of climate change is that rainfall is going to become variable, which means that it's going to chop and change to what it usually was. So like we used to have a proper rainy season, now it's going to change around quite a bit. This will result in some areas experiencing droughts, whilst other areas will experience flooding. Okay, and in the previous set of slides, we briefly spoke about how the more eastern part is going to become drier, where the western part is going to become a bit more wet, and that is because of the temperature of the ocean on either side of the actual South Africa itself. Okay, so I've indicated some areas, and it's slightly far more to the east, with areas that are likely to become drier. All right, so let's look at floods. Floods result in topsoil being washed away and may result in soil erosion in certain parts. Okay, so now you're washing away all the topsoil with the soil organic matter, and the organic matter is which holds all the nutrients. And if you wash all of that away, you're going to lose the humidity, as well as you're not going to be able to hold on to water, and it's going to become infertile. So soil can no longer be used for agriculture. The soil becomes sediment in rivers because, remember, it breaks down as it goes along the river, and a big rock will eventually become a very small pebble and eventually grains of sand. And what that will do is the sediment settles in the dams, reducing the volume of water quality, so volume and water quality of the dam, because now there's a lot more solutes and dissolved substances and just fine particles in the water itself. Okay, and reducing the water we spoke about with the Highlands project in the last slide, where I said that the more soil that lands down pushes the amount of water up, and that can cause some even worse flooding. Okay, so this can really have a large knock-on effect, and it's all because of climate change that is causing variable rain and flash floods. I mean, South Africa has been experiencing some of the craziest flash floods. But anyway, all right, grade 11s, that was the quickest little video for you. I know that wasn't too much, and next time we'll do exotic plants and other bits and pieces. All right, have a good day. Bye.